By the way, we have a running joke at my university because my university insists that everyone officially say the Ohio State University.
Yes,
And none of us take it seriously.
and it's only people inside the Ohio State University that say it.
And we do it tongue in cheek. Okay.
Well, are you gonna beat Michigan this year? That's the only serious question.
I am not a football fan. How's that?
There you are.
There it is.
We're visiting you.
Keep it that way, or can you slide start?
I'm gonna write down my name.
The up and down, the up and down buttons. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Well, there's all my titles and everything. I retired about 10 years ago, but I remain active in research and writing. So I ended up as an academy professor. We have an excellent emeritus academy at the Ohio State University with a grant program, lecture series, and the provost funds the whole thing. And it's very nice, and it keeps people involved with from where they retired. Let's start off with, let's go this way. Let's start out with a story. Anyone familiar with Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time?
Yes.
It's a wonderful book. If you want to try to understand quantum gravity, that is.
Yeah.
And things of that sort. But it is fun to read, and it's one of those books you can read a dozen times. He has in the back 1 2-page descriptions of 3 famous scientists, Isaac Newton, Galileo, and Einstein. And I'm going to read you what he says about Isaac Newton, who is on your left. Okay? Isaac Newton was not a pleasant man. His relations with other academics were notorious, with most of his later life embroiled in disputes. Newton clashed with the astronomer James Flamsteed, if I pronounced that right, he's in the middle, and sought his revenge by systematically deleting all references to Flamsteed in later editions of Principia. A more serious dispute arose with the German philosopher Gottfried Leibniz. Although we know that Newton discovered calculus years before Leibniz.
Right.
Oh, okay, very good. Although we know Newton discovered calculus years before Leibniz, he published his work much later. A major row ensued over who had been first, with scientists vigorously defending both contenders. It is remarkable, however, that most of the articles appearing in defense of Newton were originally written by Newton and by his own hand, and only published in the names of friends. He ghost wrote himself, in essence. But that was not all. Newton then wrote the committee's report himself, and he had the Royal Society. You see that in the middle. It's one of the oldest science societies in the world. It started back in late 1600s, I believe. And he wrote the report himself, accusing Leibniz of plagiarism. And so that's why I'm presenting today on disciplinary mobbing, if you would accept that particular term. Now, you think these 3 guys would get along? I mean, they all had the same hairdresser.
Yeah.
Here's a disclaimer. I am not an expert on mobbing, and I likely will not pursue it because I'm too darn busy with all my other projects. And eventually I will have to taper. I'm now 74. I got about 26 more years to go. Then I'm going to start tapering. Okay. And I hope the presentation, though, does add value and helps people think about what disciplinary mobbing is distinctive from academic mobbing. Now, we're all ordinary academics, right? I mean, we got good and bad traits. I used to have a sign on my door that from a leadership book that said in the business world, it's dog eat dog, and in academics, it's just the reverse. And I still have it. I took it with me when I came home with all of those plaques that don't mean anything for 5, 10, 15 years of service. We do live in competitive environments. I used to know my H index. I have no idea what it is now. Voluntary and collaborative nature of most professional societies creates a different context for mobbing than in a single organization. We have complex networks. I mostly attend the American Society of Criminology. We get about 4,000 to 5,000 people there every year. It's going to be in San Francisco in November, and it lacks guardianship. There's a lot of diversity within, by any trait you want to imagine. Now, disciplinary mobbing, in my opinion, is more diffused and spread out. It's a form of coercive control. If you want to add something to your literature, Sandra Walkley and her colleague, I forget her first name, Barlow, wrote an excellent small book on the idea of coercive control, which I cannot pronounce. They mobilize, you notice Newton mobilized resources, and that's what happens within professional societies. You're always building social capital of one kind or another. Now, here are some techniques from Foucault of control. And by the way, if and Caroline is still on, they analyzed Isaac Newton's hair posthumously. And they found out that he had high levels of mercury because he was also an alchemist back then.
Right.
Yeah.
And mercury was used by hatters to do the fell on hats. And so Matt is a hatter, and I noticed that I get to be now the second person to mention that phrase. Okay. The Christopher Columbus syndrome is one way of disciplinary mobbing. That is, you ignore the originator of an idea because they are not the right person. And so you discover it. It's brand new, you claim. And you ignore the literature as best you can from someone else. And another one on here, failure to acknowledge comments. I've seen this in sessions where somebody raises their hand and you're looking in the other direction. You're not going to acknowledge that person. That person may not be part of the crowd that you hang around with at the conference bar. So you don't. And now, why do we, by the way, you notice on exclusion, I did something rather ironic. I forgot the parentheses. In disciplinary mobbing, the victim can be the bully who has participated in the same. And that's where I get my personal experience when they named a scholarship for me. And the bully, who I probably will try to take out into the alley despite my age if he's at the conference, starts sending out emails. He's not even a member of this society and says they shouldn't be naming scholarships for old white guys. So I immediately resigned from Queensland University of Technology, where I was an adjunct, and wrote to the chancellor. He's a racist and a sexist, and I'm not going to put up with it. And so I resigned. Well, guess what? There are probably a dozen of us that he has directed vindictives toward. His favorite actually is starting rumors that certain well-regarded academics sexually assault every student they have. So we are mobbing him back. We ignore him. We move forward without him. And so I would say that, ask the question, when is mobbing a good thing? When it is the mobilization of social capital, because if this bully continues, he'll end up with a mob against other people. Right now, he's trying to redefine my area of rural criminology as originating in Australian studies. My response is, I can name 15 articles from before World War II from 15 different countries. It doesn't start in Australia. That's the Christopher Columbus syndrome, by the way. And so we do that. And then I would also conclude with this. There are academics who make very unprofessional statements like this person. who then claim they are mob. It's kind of a narcissism, I guess, or a martyr syndrome of some kind. And if you take those comments seriously as you do your science, then you will lose your legitimacy. That's it.
Wow.
Oh,